Dads, let's be real. Life is non-stop. You're juggling work, kids, bills, the lawn refuses to mow itself. And maybe if you're lucky, you can sneak in a beer on a Friday. We're all hustling. And in this hustle, we are looking for things that can save us time, give us the edge, and actually work for us instead of against us.
And speaking of working against us, let's talk about our phones. You're about to eat dinner, phone rings, and it's another robocall trying to sell you car insurance. or you're standing in the rain waiting for your Uber OTP to arrive and it doesn't. Or your mom clicks in on one of those scam SMS links because it looked so legit. Yeah, we've all been there.
Mm-hmm. And here's the crazy part, Ryan. Companies know that these problems exist. They know that spam calls are just like killing their trust. They know that the OTPs are failing and they're costing them customers. They also know that the network performance isn't always what it's advertised. And guess what? They're paying billions every year to get tested, to try fix it, and verify these issues.
But here's the twist. Instead of hiring massive test labs or building expensive centralized farms, a new tech called UnityNodes is flipping the model. It's using the devices we already carry, iPhones, Androids, SIM cards, to become part of a global edge network that verifies, tests, and protects telecom services.
So what does this mean in plain dad English? Well, with Unity, you download the app, it runs in the background on your phone, and while you're grilling steaks and maybe watching rugby or football, the app can verify SMS messages. It's checking OTPs from apps like WhatsApp, Uber, and banking services. It detects spam and robocalls in real time. It monitors call quality, latency, jitter, and packet loss. And it's also helping the carrier spot fraud before it hits the network.
So, in other words, your phone becomes part of a telecom test lab that's always running, always checking, and feeding the data into the Unity network. And the beauty, you don't have to do anything once it's set up. It runs quietly in the background and you carry on with your life.
All right, Ryan, before we go deeper, let's just break down to everybody what exactly is an OTP and how does it work?
Yeah, good one. So OTP stands for one-time password. It's a temporary code, usually 4 to 6 digits, that's sent to your phone when you're logging into an app, making a payment, or signing up for pretty much any service anymore.
Right, and here's what happens behind the scenes. When you hit that login, let's say on that app, all right, let's say you're on the banking app or an Uber app, and it sends a request to your service provider. That provider pushes an SMS to your phone through your mobile carrier.
Your phone receives it, you type the code into the app, and if it matches what the server generated, boom, you're in. The code disappears, can't be reused, and usually expires within a few minutes. That's why it's called a one-time password.
But here's the problem. Sometimes those OTPs get delayed. Sometimes they don't arrive at all. Maybe the carrier network is congested, and maybe the routing's failed, or maybe scammers are hijacking the SMS channels.
And that's exactly where Unity steps in. Unity devices test the process in real time. They request OTPs, log whether they arrive, how fast, or if they fail, and then send that data back into the Unity network. It gives companies like WhatsApp, Uber, or banks verifiable proof of what's happening with their OTP deliveries.
So OTPs are basically the security backbone of apps we use every day, and Unity makes sure the backbone actually works. So now let's keep it real. There's no magic here. Unity does need resources to run. Every phone needs about 7 gigs of data per month. So if you have a tiny data plan, it isn't going to work out. You need to get some more data.
Here's the dad hack though. Run Unity on Wi-Fi. You got an old iPhone lying in a drawer, or you can, grab a cheap secondhand Android from Facebook Marketplace. Perfect. Plug it in, keep it powered on 24/7, connect it to Wi-Fi, and let it do its thing. One phone, 2 phones, even a small fleet if you're serious. That's the sharing economy part of it all. Everyday people powering a global verification network.
And here's where our goals come in. We're not here to give you financial advice. We're not here to promise you get rich quick schemes. What we are saying is Unity is real infrastructure tech. It's solving billion-dollar problems for telecommunication and apps for the first time. It's letting everybody participate by contributing their devices. That's the power shift.
And as dads, that's the edge we're always looking for. Something real, something useful, something that actually has value in the world. So in today's episode, we're going to unpack exactly how Unity works, why companies will pay for these services, how it compares to old school competitors like Ookla and Twilio, and why we think this is a sharing economy game changer for crypto dads everywhere. All right, Sean, so let's set the stage. Unity's tackling problems that already have companies spending billions, but it's not like no one's tried to solve this before. Let's talk about competitors.
Yeah, so take Ookla speed test, and I'm sure everyone's, checked their speed test, and at some point you're like, oh, why is my Wi-Fi down? Oh, it's trash. Maybe the kids are on Netflix. Maybe the whole family's downloading stuff. So Ookla gives you speed pings. It tells you about the JIT on the line to see the call quality. But here's the problem: Ookla is centralized. It runs a limited amount of servers. It takes a snapshot. It's not continuously testing. Carriers can't even optimize for this. It's not real world proof.
Yeah, exactly. Or take Twilio. They handle the SMS and OTPs for big apps like WhatsApp, Uber, banks. Every time you log in, that code comes via Twilio endpoint. But again, it's centralized. A few big gateways, not thousands of random devices around the world. Hackers know this, scammers exploit this, and sometimes OTPs just don't arrive.
I'll just give you a quick example. So I've just upgraded my phone, and now I'm trying to get all my apps to work. So I got my banking app, and then I'm like, okay, I click, and it says OTP, and then I'm like, I'm waiting for the OTP to come through, and it's not coming through. So then I have a look closer, and there's some random number, because sometimes they block out your cell phone number and just give you the last four digits, and I'm like, there's no phone I've ever existed that had those last four digits. And like, how did I? Obviously, we've done a SIM swap to get to the new phone, because we're using the eSIM, and now those four digits, I'm like, now, is it a scam, or did scammers manage to exploit that? So yeah, I had to phone the bank and figure it out, but it should have had my cell phone. On my other phone, it has my cell phone details, but on the new phone, it has some other weird OTP going to some weird random cell phone number. So this is perhaps what's happening, and it needs to be solved. All right, so then you've got test farms, giant warehouses of phones that are run by vendors who lease their services to carriers. They're expensive, hundreds of thousands of dollars a week. And here's the kicker: they don't represent the real world, because who lives in a warehouse of identical devices on the same carrier?
Right, that's the flaw. Carriers and apps need real world coverage. Random phones, random SIMs, random geolocations. That's where Unity wins, by turning everyday people's phones into a giant global test lab, a living, breathing, constantly moving, real verification network.
So let's talk about Unity's sharing economy. And let's use an analogy that dads will get. All right. So think about Uber. Before Uber, you had taxi companies with fixed fleets controlled by a few operators. Very expensive, limited. Then Uber came along and said, hey, people already own cars, so why not use those? So that's their sharing economy. Airbnb did the same with spare rooms, and now Unity is doing the same thing with cell phones.
Yeah, so instead of a carrier paying a centralized test farm, Unity says, why not use the billions of devices already in people's hands? Cheap Androids, old iPhones, even phones collecting dust in a drawer. Plug them in, connect them to Wi Fi, and suddenly you're part of the global infrastructure. It's a win win. Carriers get better data, users contribute, and the system is always on.
And this is where the business model gets spicy. Unity sells access to these global test networks through APIs. Carriers and enterprises and app developers, they pay to verify. Each OTP, every spam detection, every call quality test generates data that Unity sells back as a service. That's not speculative tokenomics. That's real B2B demand. And that's why it's different.
So let's break it down practically. You've got your Unity license. You download the app, set it up, super simple. After that, it runs in the background. It doesn't hijack your texts. It doesn't block your calls. It doesn't steal your data. It just quietly runs tests in the background.
And yes, there is a catch. It uses data. All right, so around about 7 gigs a month per device. But think about it. Most of us have Wi Fi at home or at work. So pick up a cheap secondhand Android or iPhone, hook it into the Wi Fi, leave it plugged in 24/7, and boom, you're contributing to the Unity network.
And the beauty, you don't need advanced knowledge. No setting up miners, no fans overheating your garage, just a phone. And if you want to scale, you add a few more. Unity doesn't care if you've got one device or 10, as long as they're online, they're part of the Edge network.
So, why would carriers or enterprises pay big money for this? Well, it's simple because Unity does what centralized systems can't. It catches real problems in real time: robocall scams, OTP failings, call quality issues, fraud detection, and this is just some of the services they can offer these carriers.
And here's the kicker, this data is immutable on the world mobile chain. Carriers can't sweep failures under the rug. Enterprises get transparent, verifiable proof. That's gold in the industry where trust is everything.
And this is where Dad's Gone Crypto ties in to Unity. So Unity is the tech, but the culture is what gives it life. And that's why we've launched our merge collection.
Two simple options, the Unity collection, wear it, and you're stamped as part of the Unity movement, and the Dad collection, buy any 2 items and you unlock the Miners Cut Alpha Club. That's our private circle where like-minded dads share alphas, opportunities, and insights. No promises of money, no hype, just access to the right tribe.
So today you've seen the dad hustle problem, the broken telecom mess, the competitors failing, and the Unity stepping in as a sharing economy fix. You've seen how a simple phone in your drawer can become part of the billion-dollar industry solving real-world problems.
And remember, this isn't financial advice. We're not promising you riches. What we're saying is Unity is real tech solving real problems. And Dad's Gone Crypto is your front row seat to that story. Grab some merch, join the Alpha Club, and let's build the biggest crypto dad network the world has ever seen.
All right, guys, and that concludes our episode for today. Head on over to Dad's Crypto Gear in the description below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
Thanks, guys. See you next time.
Ciao.
The material and information presented in this recording are for entertainment purposes only. Do not misconstrue what you hear as investment or trading advice. Always do your own research. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by the guests on this recording are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of Dad's Gone Crypto or its hosts.